Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome back. This is Rummy's Corner. So my worthless 2 cents on the upcoming fight between Gennady Golovkin and Kell Brook. I honestly don't like the fight. But before I get into that, I want to make it perfectly clear that I understand that Gennady is in a very difficult situation right now, and I believe he is an elite talent with tremendous skills who's undoubtedly one of the best boxers in the game today. But part of the reason I don't like the fight, it kind of comes down to priorities. The priorities of a boxer versus the priorities of a boxing fan. And in terms of being a boxer, I would think, and I believe I heard this, I think Jim Lampley mentioned it on HBO and that he was quoting Andre Ward. But the top priority for a fighter is or should be their health first and foremost. Preserving and maintaining a fighter's health is extremely important. And then after that comes the money aspect. You want to earn income. You want to earn and preserve as much wealth as you can. And then finally after that comes legacy. So in that order, health, wealth, legacy. And I think that makes sense in terms of a chronology of a top priority for a boxer. So on the other hand, you have the fans. They want to see fights that are back and forth, toe-to-toe action, competitive affairs. They want to see fights where boxers take big risks, both risks in terms of choosing tough foes and risks in terms of making things happen inside the squared circle. And last and most importantly, I think, boxing fans want to see the best face off against the best. Now, this is only considering the priorities of boxers and boxing fans, which ignores the whole equation of promoters and matchmakers and everything else going on. But I think right now with Gennady versus Brook, you can safely say that this is an example of Golovkin taking minimum risk for maximum reward. And I mean no disrespect towards Kell Brook when I say this. I think Kell Brook is actually an excellent fighter. He very well may be the best welterweight in the world right now. He never proved he was the best welterweight in the world, but maybe he was, and maybe he is. But we don't know that. So we have Brook going in there. You know, it's going to be probably a big payday for Golovkin. The UK fans are some of the best boxing fans in the world. I wish the American scene had some of the same type of enthusiasm and interest that they have over there in the UK. And I can't blame Golovkin for doing this. He couldn't secure a big money fight with Cotto or Canelo. Couldn't lure Floyd in there with him. So I think this makes sense for Gennady, and for Kell Brook, it's a ballsy move for sure. I mean, I think Kell's going in there. He doesn't have much to lose because if he gets destroyed, he could always go back down to 147, go back down to 154. So it kind of gives him a chance to showcase his talent. And who knows, maybe he'll make a better fight out of this than I personally am expecting. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I know there are a lot of fans out there who are comparing this situation to when Bernard Hopkins faced Tito Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya, and I'm not seeing the comparison at all. Forgetting what I just mentioned, that Brook, while he may be the best welterweight in the world, he never proved that. Tito and Oscar, these are both guys that made a strong impact at 154. They're also both guys that won versions of the middleweight title before facing Hopkins. This is nothing like that. This is Kell Brook, who never proved himself as a distinguished welterweight, moving up and fighting the monster, which is Gennady Golovkin. And people, it's not the same situation. Even if you want to say that De La Hoya's victory over Sturm was tainted and therefore his middleweight title claim, I can live with that because I think Hopkins, what he was doing with De La Hoya, is the exact same thing we have now going on with Golovkin targeting Brook. It's an easy payday, it's a minimum risk, and it's a high reward. Hopkins was looking for that payday, but still, De La Hoya was accomplished at 154. He technically had a title at 160. Trinidad, he was actually a favorite going into the Hopkins bout. He plowed through the 154 division, leaving a trail of wreckage behind him beating guys like Fernando Vargas, moving up to 160, doing something to William Joppy that had never been done before, and even after that, guys like Bernard Hopkins and Jermaine Taylor couldn't do to Joppy what Tito Trinidad did. Trinidad blew through Joppy, and people were favoring Trinidad to beat Hopkins. So the Trinidad-Hopkins fight is nowhere near the level of this comparison between Golovkin and Brook. And even Oscar, you have a better case, because I do think they're both looking for minimum risk, high reward. But Oscar was a much more proven commodity than Kell Brook. All the same, I commend Brook for taking the fight. I don't like the fight for Golovkin, and what I really think it comes down to is Gennady Golovkin is in a very similar situation as Vladimir Klitschko was in for so many years during his long reign of dominance, up until the point he was defeated by Tyson Fury. Gennady is just so good right now, and middleweight is lacking a polar opposite type of guy that would make a Frazier Ali type of rival. He doesn't have that right now. Even if Canelo was willing to go in the ring with him tomorrow, it wouldn't really matter because Canelo isn't that foe either. There's just nobody there, in my opinion, at 160 that can truly challenge Gennady Golovkin, which is why, looking at this now, it's all the more disappointing that he's fighting what's basically an unproven welterweight, and I just don't like the fight. I think it's a mismatch. I think it would be a mismatch if Gennady got any of the top guys at 160 in. That's a tribute to his skills and dominance, and I think he's a tremendous talent. But I don't think anybody out there, Jacobs, Saunders, I don't think those guys are gonna be big challenges for Golovkin. I think those are mismatches. So looking at this Kell Brook situation, I don't like the fight. I understand it because Gennady's taking the risks. He's the fighter out there. He's the one getting older, trying to maximize what he can, preserving his health, making his money, doing all these things. But the fan in me just can't help thinking that this is an unbecoming fight for someone of Gennady's immense talent. This is Rummy. Thank you for tuning in. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. And if you're already subscribed to my channel, thank you very much for your support. Have a good night.